When any of these notes are notated, they create a rhythm. The 4 quarter notes become a regular rhythm, while if we mix up different note values, we create a less regular rhythm. For example, if we listen to the opening of the Brahms Academic Festival Overture, we see a variety of note values. In the first bar, there are 8 eighth notes. Then in bar 2 and 3, there's a pattern of a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, a quarter note, 2 eighth notes. In the fourth bar, again we have 8 eighth notes. In the fifth bar, we have a quarter, 2 eighths, and 2 quarters. And in the sixth bar, we have 2 half notes. Sometimes we see a dot after a note. Here we have a dot after a half note. Any dot like this adds half the value of the note it follows. In 4/4, our half note gets 2 beats, as we have learned. If we add a dot to that half note, it will have 3 beats. There is a second way that this can be notated. This is by adding a quarter note to the half note and putting a tie above or below it. A half note with a dot is the same as a half note tied to a quarter note. If we look at the middle of the last movement of the Beethoven Fifth Symphony, we see a dotted half note followed by a quarter note in the first bar and 4 quarter notes in the second measure. This pattern repeats numerous times. It is played 3 times by the oboes, clarinets, and bassoons, leading to a version played loud, forte, by the full orchestra. If we now look at a quarter note with a dot, of course, we've now learned that the dot is worth half the value of a quarter note, which is an eighth note. It could also be notated as a quarter note tied to an eighth note. If we look and listen to the last movement of Dvorak's New World Symphony, we see a half note followed by 2 quarter notes in bar 1, a dotted quarter followed by an eighth, and then a half note to complete bar 2, a half, a quarter, and 2 eighths in bar 3, and then a dotted half and a quarter in bar 4 to complete the beginning of this melody. Now let's look at the beginning of the last movement of Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony to see some 16th notes. Bar 1 is a half note followed by a dotted quarter note and an eighth note, and then the second bar is all 16th notes. In the third bar, 3 beats of 16th notes, and then 2 eighth notes. In the fourth bar, we have some silence. We notate these silences with what we call rests. Each note value has a corresponding notation for a rest. A whole note rest is a rectangular block that sits below a line. A half note rest is a rectangular block that sits on top of a line. This is what a quarter note rest looks like. Now an eighth rest has a single flag on the stem, a 16th note has 2 flags, and a 32nd note has 3 flags on the stem. Dots following a rest are also the same as dots following notes, half of the value of the note.